You might not have been able to tell through all the gloom because it is raining, but the truth is the future of Long Beach is bright, and I mean that with my whole heart. One of the big reasons for that is that there's $1 billion being invested into the city. This is more than 180 projects. And on top of that, Long Beach is gonna be hosting on the biggest world stage. We have the FIFA World Cup in 26, we have the Olympics coming in 2028. We have infrastructure projects and big improvements that are changing Long Beach. I'm gonna show you all the different changes that are happening in 2026 and the neighborhoods that you should keep your eye on. Let's get into it. Okay, so before we dive in all the way, just wanna give a little bit more context. Again, the reason that these changes are happening right now isn't random. Long Beach is a catalyst. Long Beach is compelled for two main massive global events, the FIFA World Cup in 26, the Summer Olympics in 28, and while the World Cup will take place at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, Long Beach is positioning itself as a key player, for hospitality, obviously the sailing events, key player because of the convention center, event hub for visitors drawn to Southern California. We're taking thousands of hotel rooms and hundreds of dining options throughout the area that'll be activated for people coming from around the world. I would say the real preparation is for the 28 Olympics. The FIFA World Cup's around the corner. For the Olympics, there's several Olympic events, Paralympic events, hundreds and thousands of international visitors that are expected to come to the city in that 2-week period between, mid-July to end of July, all to get ready for its global spotlight. And as we talked about in past videos, the city's launched Elevate 28, which is the infrastructure plan. And it's the largest infrastructure program in the city's history with more than $1 billion spread across the 180 projects. What's amazing about it is how the city is turning local dollars into regional investment on a 3-to-1 leverage ratio. So for every dollar local Measure A funds, they're pulling in almost $3 from the federal, state, and regional grants. What makes 2026 so special, you might ask? Let's break down the 4 massive changes coming into town, starting with the largest street transformation project in all of Long Beach's history. Okay, so quick note before we keep going. For those who don't know me, my name is Isayas, and I spent years helping people in Long Beach and the surrounding areas find their place that they call home. If you're thinking about making a move and want help narrowing down on the areas that you should consider that align with your goals, reach out anytime. All my information is in the description. All right, so let's get back to it. More than 12 funding sources, 5 miles of reconstruction, and a $64.4 million investment. And really, that's what it takes to turn one of Long Beach's busiest and widely used roads into one of the safest and smartest for the city's future. This is the Studebaker Road Transformation Project that we're talking about, and it is rebuilding the city's longest north-south corridor, stretching all the way from 2nd Street all the way to Carson Street. The city broke ground on this project in September of 25. Heavy construction began pretty much thereafter. The most recent updates confirmed that completion is expected by the fall of 2027. But I will say this is why some people think it's frustrating. The honest truth is that it's not always going to be easy for the people who live by, naturally. Studebaker is a major commuter route, and construction has already caused some lane closures, some detours, and longer drive times for some folks, especially during peak hours. So if you do rely on this road daily, the disruption is going to be real. Some residents worry that reducing the lanes could also, in the future, create some congestion or push traffic to surrounding areas. Others are frustrated by the timeline. Having a multi-year project can feel like it's endless, especially when you are in the noise and the dust and all the changing patterns that come with that. And some people just don't think it's the most pressing project, because I've driven on it for a while without noticing any issues until I was making this video, is when I became conscious of maybe some of the potholes that have been covered and maybe some of its irregularities. Either way, wherever you fall on the spectrum of folks who feel like this is necessary or unnecessary, some of these concerns are valid, I would say, but the reason why the city is willing to accept the short-term inconvenience and all of this is because Studebaker's old design, had its own issues. It encouraged speeding in some areas, it had a history of some serious collisions, and it functioned in a lot of ways more like a dividing wall than a neighborhood street. The goal, of course, is not to make this any more difficult for drivers, it's just to make it safer, to reduce crashes, to redesign it in a way that's a little bit more conducive for drivers and pedestrians alike. So I think that's an important thing. This is why it matters, is because for decades, Studebaker, like I said, wasn't entirely the kind of street that you would want to see tucked into a neighborhood. It was kind of like a barrier and it was designed for fast traffic. It divided the neighborhood and made walking and biking unsafe in some parts, and now it's being reimagined to, kind of complete the street in a way that it's putting safety first. Again, it has a design focus. So it's gonna have protected bike lanes while limiting traffic exposure on one end. And then every section, as far as I'm aware, is gonna be rebuilt to modern ADA standards with new sidewalks, curb ramps, crossings. So, people with mobility challenges can also move safely and independently. The safety upgrades are concentrated really around where the schools are gonna be. There's a good amount of schools that are aligned along that corridor or along Studebaker. And the other thing to note also is that it's gonna get greener. There's gonna be 100 new trees, 2,000 shrubs, landscape medians. There's like a beautification element to all of this as well, in addition to how it's going to impact the safety. Also, Mayor Rex Richardson calls Studebaker the southern gateway to Long Beach, and in 2028, it will be a major point of entry for Olympic visitors, for those coming from LA off the 405. For many people who turn onto Studebaker to get to the sailing events, this will impact them directly. So it makes sense why this is being prioritized. But more importantly, long after the games, this corridor is gonna connect neighborhoods in a more meaningful way, ultimately leaving a positive net impact. So when construction does wrap in 2027, or at least when it's supposed to, it is going to function differently. And our hope, or our belief, my belief at least, is that there will be fewer collisions, safer crossings, better design. Truthfully, only time will tell. We'll only know when we see it. So maybe we'll talk about it when that happens. All that being said, Studebaker is the only corridor that's being rethought. Another street, which is a little older, is also being redesigned right now. I actually drove down it this morning. It runs right through the heart of Long Beach. So if Studebaker transforms how you move across Long Beach, then I'd say Pacific Avenue reshapes how you move through it. Pacific Avenue is also one of the city's most important north-south corridors, because it runs from Ocean Boulevard through Wrigley and central Long Beach up to the 405 freeway. And for years, it's been one of the most complained about streets in the city. It is undergoing a major redesign. The Pacific Avenue project will add roughly 2 miles of protected bike lanes, some raised to sidewalk level. It also will include 8 new pedestrian crossings, widened sidewalks, safer access to the Metro A line, which is also really prevalent along Pacific Avenue. And that'll get you to the convention center and to the city college and all of that. At the core of the redesign is a road diet. So from Ocean to Spring Street, one traffic lane in each direction will be removed to slow speeding and to reduce serious collisions. North of Spring Street near the 405, some road widening, I think, may occur to better manage traffic volumes. That's the idea. And this $34 million project is gonna be built in 2 phases. The first phase is gonna be the Ocean Boulevard to PCH, and then the second phase is gonna be the PCH to Wardlow Rail Station near the 405. A $25 million federal grant has already been secured for the northern portion, and the safety data around it is really why the city has decided to act now. The point is that when vehicles can't weave and pass freely, the crashes become less deadly. And this project is a key part of Long Beach's Safe Street initiative, which aims for really 0 traffic-related deaths and serious injuries by 2026, which I think is a great goal. But the reason why this makes locals nervous, even though while there is thoughtfulness around safety and it being a major win that people want, I think the changes have also brought real concerns to residents, specifically around traffic congestion. I think this is the biggest one for sure, specifically on Pacific, because Pacific already acts as somewhat of a relief valve for the surrounding neighborhoods. And many residents are fearful that the lane reductions are going to worsen or push cars into the surrounding residential streets. Parking is another issue that's going to likely be impacted by that, because Pacific does run through dense neighborhoods. So this is like a real concern. Small business owners are also worried about construction impacts. Naturally, the access to their storefronts, the visibility, whether customers will stop during and after the changes. Who knows how this will all impact it? I certainly don't. And despite the concerns, even though I don't drive down Pacific that often, although I did this morning just so I could see it for myself as well again, I do believe this could have a positive impact and should have a positive impact. And I think it will bring long overdue attention to this part of the city, which I think could help build some more momentum to help continue to turn things around. Again, like I said, regarding the transformation on Studebaker, there's some things that we really won't see and understand the true impact until it's all said and done. So we'll do my best to keep you guys posted on that as well. All that being said, the long-term goal here is clear from what's been articulated to us, which is slower speeds, fewer deaths, safer access, and a corridor that works for the people who live along it. When we see streets like Studebaker and Pacific start to work differently, the goal here is that it won't just change how people move, it will also help funnel people and energy and investment towards the city's urban core. And that's where the Skyline starts to change. But before I go deeper into those coming projects or those projects, a quick note, here on this channel, my goal is to share the best tips, insights about Long Beach and Los Angeles and its real estate market. You know, that includes lifestyle, that includes places you want to eat, places that you might want to live, all the stuff in between. So if you're watching, please make sure to subscribe and look at the information in the description box if you want to connect. Whatever you need, I'd love to help. Let's keep moving. So downtown Skyline is getting a new set of icons. Picture 700 or so new apartments going up on land that used to be used as parking lots, a 40-story tower. These are part of the things that are gonna impact the Skyline. On top of that, we have the city's first new luxury hotel restoration, which many of you guys already know about. This is not just a plan for the future. This is about what crews are building and what people are taking advantage of right now. Downtown Long Beach didn't start changing in 2025. The shift really began more than a decade ago when the city approved the downtown plan of 2012, and that plan made it building easier and it set clear rules for growth. A few years after, the city had already approved more than 5,000 new homes downtown. But 2025 and 2026 is where everything is gonna start really changing because billions of dollars of projects are moving forward and you can actually start seeing, you know, the city kind of evolving right in front of your eyes. So the biggest piece of this boom is the West Side Gateway, which is a master mixed-use district that's breaking up the old superblock, you know, kind of model and reintroducing historic street grid with new streets, walkways, you know, view corridors, retail spaces, all that kind of stuff. We've talked about a lot of that in more detail in a previous video as well. The old mega block structure that we've been talking about from the 1980s is really gonna be gone, and it's gonna hopefully reintroduce something that's a little bit more walkable, which I think is something that people are craving. I think that's what makes living in a city that's densely populated worthwhile. There will be also an emphasis on parking, which is of course gonna be really important. I think it'll be interesting to see how this impacts traffic in the area, which has been a concern. I know it's already kind of concentrated in that sense, but making it walkable should help to solve some of that. But the West Side Gateway isn't just the only major project that's happening downtown. One of the other big ones is the Alexan West End project that has financing that's closed. Construction is active at 600 West Broadway, $200 million project that replaces acres of surface parking. It's another new mixed-use type of neighborhood. The primary phase has 4 mid-rise buildings with 600 apartments, and when financing closed in 2024, it was estimated that it was going to open partially, at least the first phase, the end of 2025, which is right now. No new updates as far as I'm aware. The last phase of this project is expected to wrap up by 2028, but again, we'll see how that goes, and we will keep you posted here along the way as well. The Fairmont Breakers Hotel has also been restored and opened this past year. It's a very vibey spot. I think it's a big win for the city. 185 boutique rooms, rooftop pool, 2-story spa, live jazz club, sky room restaurant. It's just like one of those things that people want to have access to for a nice night out. Recent news around that, for what it's worth, is that you might have seen is that there has been a bankruptcy filed around it, but it's nothing to really worry about as far as I can tell. This is just kind of one of those more financing reorg strategies the lenders are dealing with. But all that to say, the restoration is up and something you should also check out. But if I'm being honest here, I am very curious to see how downtown continues to reemerge because there's, I think, a longing for the residential core to be built back up. Having a great and lively downtown, I think, is a win for everybody. It means stronger demand for restaurants. It means stronger demand for shops. I think for the longest time, you know, around post-COVID, downtown emptied out after, you know, the end of the workday. Some residents have had challenges and their perceived notions around safety and if it's even worth, you know, spending a lot of time in a place that kind of closes down, but I do see it starting to come back. And at the same time, North Long Beach is also getting a big change. This one specifically around environmental justice. and investments around that. And those changes look very different from the ones happening in downtown, but it's still one worth talking about because both areas are trying to fix decades worth of underinvestment, but in different ways. But again, these projects are, again, I think all being expedited in light of what is coming with the Olympics and the World Cup, which is creating a net positive for everybody. The Long Beach Convention and Entertainment Center is growing too, which offers more than 400,000 square feet meeting and exhibit space. It's adding temporary areas for Olympic sports like water polo and artistic swimming. It's all within walking distance of downtown restaurants and shops and hotels. If you're someone who's thinking about living or investing in downtown Long Beach, I think we're seeing that downtown Long Beach is at the precipice. I think we're seeing it on the cusp of what could be a very big push at a point in time where we can see a really big push in a really positive direction. So if you're thinking about potentially living in downtown Long Beach, I think there are definitely certain things to be cautious of or be considerate of, but 2026 is when this whole transformation, I think, becomes impossible to miss, just because there's a lot going on. While downtown does get taller, does get busier, another part of Long Beach is also focused on fixing long-standing gaps, which we just kind of briefly touched on. And that story starts in neighborhoods that needed the support the most. So North Long Beach is finally getting what wealthier neighborhoods have had for decades in Long Beach. Frankly, I think it's about time because the 51st Street Greenbelt is more than just a park. It's 1 acre of unused land on DeForest Avenue between 51st and 52nd Street that's being turned into a real community space. So the city broke ground on it in November of 2025, and the project is anticipated to finish around fall of 2026 with a total budget of around $6 million, which will come with walking trails, cycle tracks, fitness equipment, play structures, of course. So it's a big win for sure for North Long Beach. You know, the design of the park is also going to use native plants, and it's going to capture stormwater. It's going to maintain habitat areas for maintaining the natural ecosystem. Apparently the kind of big sycamore trees that are already there are going to stay. There's a lot of conscientious design happening, and this matters because North Long Beach has had fewer parks than the east side of Long Beach for decades, and families haven't had the same access to this type of green space. So I think this project is going to really help fix that gap. It also ties into the bigger environmental work. You'll see that more when we talk about the port later. I'll talk about how the air quality is changing and how north and the west side of Long Beach will be impacted by that. It's a big win. The Greenbelt sits close to the Los Angeles River and the DeForest wetlands, and together they're going to create a chain of parks that help to connect residents to nature, and it'll support this, you know, kind of ecological restoration. This is big. At the groundbreaking, Mayor Rex Richardson said that the 51st Street Greenbelt is part of the city's promise to give every neighborhood a welcoming place to play, exercise, and to spend time outdoors. And I think this helps make good on that promise. You know, from a climate standpoint, the benefits really make a lot of sense because, you know, the more trees you have, the more cooler you can keep a neighborhood. It's better for the air, it supports wildlife. So I think these are all positive things. Hard to argue with that. And the green space is going to help the neighborhood feel really integrated. But I should say, the port is also changing something that's even bigger, and that's the air that you breathe every single day in Long Beach. The new timeline they've set is legally locked in and is going to make a huge difference. So also in November of 2025, the Port of Long Beach made a zero-emission promise, I guess you can call it, that is legally binding. So it's not just aspirational. And the next spring is when, I guess you could say, the real work begins, because the Los Angeles Harbor Commission, or as of this last November, the Los Angeles Harbor Commission approved a major agreement with the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the Port of Long Beach, and the agreement builds on the Clean Air Action Plan. And this agreement really represents the first binding commitment to specify the goal of zero emissions across the nation's biggest ports, Long Beach being one of them. So the Clean Air Action Plan was first launched in 2006. It's a voluntary program that is aimed to help cut emissions from port-related sources. So that's everything that comes with that, the ships, the trucks, the trains, the cargo, all that. But these cuts have made the air that much cleaner in West Long Beach. And and even North Long Beach. So what's happening next spring is the real question. There is going to be a board that reviews the kind of impact of what's already started, and the focus is going to be towards ocean-going vessels, which are now the biggest pollution source of all ports. Their goal is to speed this up to have zero emissions relating to these things. The November agreement also made it have clear deadlines. So by May of 2027, the port has to submit the plan for zero emission infrastructure plans for their cargo equipment and all the stuff that comes with that. I think ideally by, later on towards 2029, I don't really know how all that stuff works, to be quite honest with you, but I think it's great to see that there is something being put into place that's at least aimed to keep people accountable. And then us, the residents, are going to be kind of benefiting indirectly from all of that too. So I think you'll see a little bit more about this in 2026 as this continues to expand. What does this really mean for all of us? Mayor Rex Richardson summed it up, I think, really well when he said that economic progress and environmental progress, they move forward together. Okay, I think that is enough for today. All that to say though, I think 2026 is going to be the year when the city really does start seeing some positive, tangible changes that impacts the way we live, continue to impact the way we live. The streets get safer, neighborhoods start taking shape in different ways, the air gets cleaner, we start feeling healthier. Again, it's a great building block for just building a solid foundation for the city, continuing to build towards that. I think it's really great information for people who have had their eye on Long Beach, who are watching from the outside, looking in, and want to learn a little bit more about what it looks like to live in one of the best cities in Southern California. So if you are someone who's considering living here or investing in the area, just send us an email at theodrosteam@gmail.com and we can get you all sorted in getting to better understand what options work best for you. Also, if you are unsure about the entirety of Long Beach, I made a video that talks about the myths about the city and what people have historically believed about the beaches, about the port, about everything in between that you might have heard through a song or a article or whatever. But the video link is here. It just might change how you see the market. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you guys dearly. Thank you for subscribing and for going on this journey with us as we dive deep into everything Long Beach, Los Angeles, and everything in between. Peace. See you in the next video.